Hey, it's Kellen. Today's guest is giving us the game on being an all-around jack of all trades and elite connector. He has supplied the cars, the jets, the homes, and models for some of your favorite videos filmed in South Africa, from P Square to his own music videos. My friend Tapfuma, aka T-Mula, a rap reggae style artist that you can see on YouTube. Last year, he got a Zim Hip Hop Award from his home country, Zimbabwe. Welcome, my guest, T-Mula. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. What's going on, man? How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for coming on. This is our round two, people, just so you know, because glitches happen, things happen. Sometimes the best of us make mistakes. But man, I'm glad to have you on, and I'm even happier that you were able to come on my client's show, the African Diaspora News Channel, and folks really loved what you were doing, and I think you really inspired some people, not just
Thank you, man.
not just in South Africa, but here, because we're a little ignorant out here sometimes to Africa. So tell the folks who may not know, who didn't catch that interview, what Mula VIP Rentals does.
Mula VIP Rentals is a luxury concierge company. We rent out luxury cars, luxury properties. We do air charters like private jets and helicopters. And we do film and TV production as well, because that's been our bigger niche. So we dip and dab in different things, but it's all VIP rentals, just like the name says.
Okay, and with VIP, that lets you know, people, you need a VIP price. How did you, well, not just how did you get involved? When I'm going to tell the story, folks. When I met Tapfuma, what he's doing now, he was doing then. And similar to what I was doing now, I'm doing what I was doing then, I'm doing now. It's just on a bigger scale, and just it's more money, more people involved. But we met when he was at Monash University over like 10 years ago, which is like, wow, where did the time go? But everyone was like, you got to meet Tapfuma, because he's a connector, and he was, doing the events clubs. He knew everybody. Where did the drive come from, and how did you start getting into the clubs and then transitioning into the cars, the jets, the homes, and everything else?
Well, okay. I've always been like an entertainment entrepreneur. So I started off, in college, I've always been, I'm an artist myself. Then doing events, throwing parties, and I discovered it was something that I was actually, good at. And in order to be able to throw events, you need to know people. People need to want to support you. You know what I mean? So I used to get good support from different people, and then my parties were really, really cool and everything. And then I started working, on and off. That wasn't enough to like pay all the bills, but it was always like passion in the background, and never stopped, kept doing, all those hustles as secondary income. Then I got myself an opportunity to have access to a lot of vehicles, in one job that I was in. We had some luxury cars that were literally just not doing anything, because our principal couldn't drive all of them. And so I proposed to start a business, and I started a business of renting out cars. I had access to 6 cars at the time. And I started renting out those cars, and I started making more money than I was making, at work. And it was so much more. Eventually I had to resign, and I still got good support and blessings to continue my new venture. So I started the car rental business. I took one car to a music video set. Everybody wanted to know who came with this Bentley, who came with this Maserati. And then at that set, 10 people will take my phone number, and then they'll call me again, and I use the different cars until I got to a point where I was like, now I need to put in a system to get access to more vehicles, because most of the artists around town are now getting wind of, my capability. And then further to that, I rented a couple of cars to a couple of music video sets. words getting around there that I will pull up. If I say Maybach's coming, it will come. And I started getting more cars and more clients and more sets, and it just was like that. The next thing I realized, okay, I'm bringing all these cars to very beautiful houses. And, somebody asked me for a house. Then I started getting database of the houses as well. And yeah, on and on and on. And then, it got to a point where we moved just from music videos to other kinds of rentals, with the houses. It became events, it became parties, it became, stuff like that with the cars as well, not just film and TV. There's weddings, there's matric dances, there's different needs for luxury transport. So, we just started pushing it like that. And that's how we've, grown the whole thing as is.
Man, awesome, awesome. And it all sounds so organic, relationship based, where you didn't even need a lot of money to be able to do what you're doing. You just needed the relationships and people to trust you. Is that correct?
100%, bro. 100%. Built the reputation, saw an opportunity, put it together, and just started, building a good rapport and a good reputation around town for delivering, and that's the most important thing, that we've built a reputation around, where we've already helped with a lot of artists' careers in terms of their visuals, like the whole of Africa, literally. But besides that, we're at a point where people trust us. If we send out an invoice, we get all our payments up front, and people do not hit producers and directors and brides and grooms. They can sleep comfortably knowing that when we send money to Mula VIP Rentals, that Rolls Royce is going to pull up, or that Lambo is going to pull up, or you know what I mean. So that's the best thing about the position we've put ourselves in, is that we've gained the trust of a lot of people in the industry.
And tell the folks how you take a $300,000 car to a music video set or a wedding, and how you make sure that you're covered. The vehicle's going to be safe if anything does happen. I know one of the stories you said, it was one of the stories you said, if something happens, the artist or whoever, the insurance picks it up. And I want you to talk about that, because in the West, when you talk about real estate and when you talk about insurance, folks are so ignorant. They're like, wait, you can have insurance? Because they always know one friend who says, Africa, who's from there, Africa is so third world, where South Africa is, not third world at all. But talk about how that works, so someone on this side can hear it and say, oh, wow. So if he has no excuse, I have no excuse. And these are the things I need to put into place.
Yeah. Well, we always, first of all, because of our experience, we can kind of, from the information about a production or about a client, we can kind of tell whether it's up to the professionalism that we, expect. And if it's not, we can entertainment business consult to ensure that whatever it is we're doing is to a certain professionalism. And, professionalism comes with the care of assets. You don't need to worry about people that are used to doing, certain things, you know what I mean? Like people who are used to shooting in multi-million rand houses, they know that when we're shooting, we need to make sure the floors are safe. When we're moving stuff, we need to make sure that it's like this, like that. When, art direction, if we really have to move something, we must take a picture of what it is so that we can return it to what it was, etc. So it's really dissecting the inquiries and advising where we see that things are not covered, or our assets will not be safe. There's some guys who like to spin cars. There's one guy wanted to spin a Lambo in a certain environment. We're like, no, Doug, it's not gonna suffice. It's dangerous for the vehicle. And then certain stunts and things that we know how to do. If we're gonna get someone to throw a car, we're gonna get a professional that we know that does that on a daily, that will know how to swing it and do stunts. You know what I mean? So we've got due diligence from experience to understand what the intentions are, whether it's a production, whether it's a wedding, where exactly is the car going. We do our geo mapping to understand the terrain and everything, you know. So that's how we keep things safe, and we haven't had too many issues in the past 6 years.
No, that's beautiful. And you also have the car chauffeured. So that artist who does want to swing it, I mean, when they're in it, it's all kind of, you know, a visual effect. I remember you telling me that. That's
For
crazy.
most of the part, we do that. But sometimes guys really want that driving shot, you know. So we also do our due diligence to find out if the person can drive. Have you ever driven a machine that's on the same level, you know? And then is it a controlled environment as well? And then, you know, we'll also be a little bit flexible so that the art can also, you know, look proper.
I'd love for you to do on your YouTube, your personal YouTube one day, and just do like openers, because even driving the Tesla, it's a different feel than driving the Bentley, where you can say, you know, start engine, and folks would be like, wait, what? And I remember, you know, I'm old school, so I remember when push to start came out. But the Mercedes has been able to do that, you know, I remember being a kid, be like, oh, wow. But these are the luxuries of when you have the means. And now it's just more and more people are being able, the things are getting cheaper. So that's a beautiful thing. In South Africa, what part was it like you had to get over? You know, there is the xenophobia sometimes. There is the, I'm from Zimbabwe and I want to be the leader and the creator of this here. How did you tackle that?
I think Joburg is a very multi-racial, multi-country kind of hotpot. Joburg is like a small New York, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, you know, if you've got value-adding contribution, we don't look at where you're from anymore. You know, there's a lot of West African, Central African, Zimbabwean, East African brothers that are in Joburg that are working well with, you know, the locals as well, especially in the things that in the industries that we work in, because it's beyond your color or anything. It's about what can you do towards adding value to the last product. So, you know, and my little, you know, business has been quite a niche on its own. So we've been accepted, you know, even if you don't want to utilize us because you've got a personal thing against me, you'll find yourself needing us, you know. So I think if anyone has had that thought, any local has had that thought, any South African, I think they quickly shy away from it. And also having said that, I've got, you know, South Africa has given me everything. You know, this is where I've spent most of my life. And I thank a lot of the people that I know here. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of family, you know, and they welcomed me. I haven't really had any issues particularly about xenophobia, but I do know that it's something that does exist, especially in you would like to say the lower bracket income areas where competition for resources is very, very scarce and very, very deep. That's usually where, you know, the roots of the xenophobia come from. And it's a sad thing, and we hope that, you know, with all the things going on in the world, even this corona right now, people realize that, you know, we've got to have each other's backs, you know, and be human towards each other, you know, going forward, if anyone didn't think like that in the past. You know, so it hasn't been too much of an issue for me in my life.
Well, I'm glad you said it, because I didn't want to brush over that, because, you know, many moons ago when I was in South Africa, I did not see that. But I didn't see a lot. But being an American, I always say there's just an American privilege, especially when you come with just, I'm here just to, you know, listen and learn and experience, and I don't, just whatever comes. So I'm glad you say that. And it's class warfare. The big eat the little, and the little say, hey, where are you from? We do that in Oakland too. And every hood, I think, does that. Where are you from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man.
Yeah. Talk about those Zimbabwe, because, last year you got the Zim Award, and, I love the plaque, whatnot, and you got to speak and you got to perform. Talk about Zimbabwe and how the music scene and the movie scene is there, and if you have any plans to do anything there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always represented Zimbabwe everywhere I go. They know, no one gets confused about where I'm from. Yeah, Zim was good. I was there in December for the Zim Hip Hop Awards. Yeah, got me an award. That was great. The industry in Zim is there. It's still trying to catch up with South Africa. Resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, we're all stakeholders from where we are. We are all stakeholders of the Zim, music industry. And I think there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of talent out of Zimbabwe. There's extreme talent from Zim. And people are upping their game. The videos are getting better. The music is getting better. And I think, what I've always advised my Zimbabwean counterparts is that, being from a small country in terms of population, Zim is like, we're under 15 million, which is not high compared to South Africa, where the population is about 53, 54 million or something like that. So, it's about 4 times as much as we are, and we're right next door to it. Then you look at industries like in West Africa, where the Nigerians are about 200 million, which is almost 4 times the number of South Africans. And then in the East, in Tanzania, they're about 50-something mil, but Swahili, Bongo flavor, that music touches into about 5 or 6 countries, into Kenya, into I think Burundi, Congo, Ethiopia as well. So when you add it up, they've got about a 300 million or so market of people just from singing Swahili. So my Zim counterparts, I advise them, because South Africa is what we are closest to. South Africa is literally like, our older brother. So, I advise them to penetrate this market for the numbers, for the economics. And it's happening, because there's also a lot of Zimbabweans within South Africa as well. Like I'm saying, it's like a brother country. It's right next to us. So yeah, all the Zim artists, you got to get your game up in SA. If it means you got to, learn a little bit about a dialect that you don't know, and get to know it. If you need to throw in whatever twists you do, because this is where the cheese is at. The numbers allow for it.
Yeah. Have you ever thought, since you can manipulate the game and, show the top tier elite, vehicles, and you have, access to producers, and then going to Zim and saying, look, I'm going to just buy up all the radio play like Jay-Z and, not just Jay-Z, but Sony and Universal have always done, and say, it's a lot cheaper to be, to manipulate and do the payola in Zim, and just do all my stuff in South Africa and be like the king of Zim while living in South Africa. Has that ever crossed your mind?
Well, more or less what you're saying, and a little bit more. And I've had, people really, they're giving me a big task. They really think that I'm going to change the game in Zim, because they know what I'm doing in SA, and I've got people that are looking up to me and expecting me to be that person that really changes the game in the Zim and mixes up the South African connect, because I've got this connect. So I'm in the process of doing that, of trying to, crisscross the information so that it eventually equals to, a more vibrant, more successful industry in Zimbabwe. And, we bring out some product that can be digested across the rest of the world, properly. So I'm in the process of that. It's a big responsibility, but I'm willing to do it, step by step, and I'm already in the process.
Man, keep me in the loop. I love stuff like that because America is so saturated, and the success that I've seen and been a part of artists who can go overseas. I remember talking to Big Still back in the day before he was on the Eminem movie, and he was like, "Forget America, I can go to Dubai and make all the money in a year that I'd make here, and not have to deal with all these folks." And many people have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with like African music, because you can hear 3 or 4 languages and different dialects in one song, no matter where, and folks will still rock with it. I mean, I know in Zim, Shona and Tosa, I'll mess it up. Forgive my American pronunciation, but also in South Africa they speak 11 different languages. So, one, how many languages can you speak? And, do you think about, ever just saying, hey, I'm going to do a whole just mix of different languages and dialects in my music, maybe like a whole album of just world music?
I don't fluently speak too many languages. I fluently speak English and Shona, really and truly. But I can speak a bit of Zulu. I can hear Zulu. I can speak a few words in Xhosa. I can hear Xhosa. I can hear most of the languages, but fluently speak, it's mainly English and Shona. And I always put that in all my music, so it's quick to show that I'm from Zim. I do a lot of, I've got a lot of tracks as well with South African artists as well, with a bit of Zulu and a bit of Xhosa and a bit of different languages. And that's, in order to widen the reach, you know what I mean? So more people can feel the vibe or get curious, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've seen artists coming back to Africa who might have been raised in the West, and they'll go learn Swahili, and they're like, I didn't speak Swahili growing up. It wasn't useful, but they have to throw that in their music now. And, and it's a beautiful thing. How is it though, being from Zim, being in South Africa and doing business, right now the hot topic in the West is how many passports can I get? Can I be a citizen here? Can I open up a bank account here? Since you are neighboring countries, it's probably a lot easier for you to go back and forth, or you may have residency or dual citizenship. But is South Africa a country, or is Zim a country that you think folks hearing this could say, oh, I could invest easily there?
Yeah, I think African countries are more welcoming to people with money. They'll welcome you easily. You'll get a passport and everything real quick.
Man, just don't come broke.
Just come with good intentions. That's all they try and check, to make sure that the value, that the intentions are good, But yeah, it's definitely possible to invest into Zimbabwe, into South Africa. It's not a difficult thing. I mean, things like property and all are, the usual assets of, that appreciate. But even if you come in with see the market, see some business opportunities, and apply yourself, they don't make it too difficult for you to operate, without a doubt.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And I'll say for Cameroon to open up a bank account can be very difficult. And so, they may say, hey, we want $200,000, depending on the bank. And so I haven't found that in Ethiopia or Kenya, or South Africa, but that's like the hot topic, especially with this COV. I had so many people call, say, Kellen, are you still in the States? Or are you in Africa? And I told them, oh, we're chilling in the States right now, but we had just came back from a trip, somewhere. And the thing is, folks are thinking about running to Africa as a contingency, like we need a backup plan, but you don't want to be somewhere you don't understand the language, you're not already set up because you're not a citizen and you can't get the health care. And Africa doesn't want any broke folks, especially any sick. Do not come broke, come with some money. What do you think for those who do want to relocate? And I get a lot of that. What's a good amount of money to come and start a business in South Africa or Zimbabwe?
Well, to start in SA, to get a business permit, you need 5 million, is what they expect. In Zimbabwe, it's I think about $200,000 or so, but I'm not sure. I just need to double check that. Being from Zimbabwe, I've never had that issue. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the other way is, find you a woman here, or find you a man here or something, man. Come on. If those numbers are like scary, like get in a relationship with the country if that's what you really want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they give you a spousal visa and etc. But usually to migrate, they require a hefty sum of money to be able to give you a business visa directly. But there's what they call critical skills as well. So if one looks at the kind of craft that they have, and maybe there's a shortage of such in the country, that's also an avenue to pursue on, And then there's asylum as well for people coming from really tough situations. But there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, So I wouldn't want anyone to be discouraged, by the business visa amount, because that one is a bit high. But yeah.
Yeah, they're trying not to have everybody swarm in because, I mean, that's for 5 million. I'm looking at that's like almost $300,000 right now. But people migrate every day, B. And so you got to, sometimes start somewhere, and sometimes you might need to do a real estate, play where you invest that into some real estate and play it like that. Yep. But that's the next wave for my company, where we're going to be able to help people do those things because of connections like yours, and being able to say, hey, Tapfuma, I got this person, this is, let's talk the money, boom, boom, boom. And you guide them as a consultant, because more and more people want to go. And folks, I see folks do it for Europe all day. I've interviewed folks on the platform that have done this, and they're making, millions of dollars and having a good time. And that's what it's all about.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So with the corona here, and hopefully it fades away, or they find a vaccine, or we start to just learn to live with it, how is your business impacted? And what are there some new, things that you say, oh, I'm going to get into, a corona-free type business, or I'm going to benefit off this actually? What's going on?
Yo, this is a very tricky situation right now. I'm sure everywhere else in the world as well. For us, we shoot, we do into productions, we're into events, we're into stuff like that. Everything is on hold. Like literally everything is on hold. We usually do 3-4 productions a week, so it's a bit quiet right now. Some people are still shooting because we haven't yet been given a full country lockdown. It's still like mild. They've closed they've closed all the spots and the restaurants, and everything has to shut at 6. They've liquor stores at 1, etc. But like, I've got a production tomorrow. There's a music video that we're supposed to shoot tomorrow, and everything is a go. But there's a voice note that's going around right now saying that the president might put us on full lockdown this evening. So we don't even know if we're working tomorrow or not. Like, it's confusing right now, But like anyone else, I'm just trying to do my research on what's going on to really try and educate myself so that I can also guide those who listen to me on an approach to this whole coronavirus. But right now we're just staying at home, and for the most part, I was in Botswana a week ago. I was too scared to fly because I just don't want to go to the airport. I had to forfeit my ticket and just drive 5 hours to and from, just to be in my own car and not be confined in a space with anybody, So it's chaos right now, but I think, we're just gonna wait it out another week or two and see what the direction is. We've got so much work lined up, but no one can work right now. So for us, it's crazy. Before we think of diversifying into other enterprises, we still have a bit of hope that things might come back to normal. But yeah, some of my friends are selling hand sanitizers and tissues in bulk, and like, they're going for it. I was just like, nah, this is not. Let me not get tangled up in this for now. Let me actually take this time to spend time with my daughter and my family and my wife, and just be more of a dad, because I'm also very busy when things are busy. So right now, for me, this is like a reset button. Let me just be a dad for a little bit.
Yeah, the kickback and possibly, work on being a dad times 2, if not 3. You never know when the twins will pop out. But but what I'm telling people is, this is the best time to read the book you haven't read so you can learn something, to write a book, to start your podcast, YouTube, to buy a course online, to create a course. Like, always look in the positive. So, I'm besides kids being home, this is what I'm doing. And I'm just, fighting for time until kids get off school. But this is the time not to panic, because Corona, as we know, it doesn't give you diarrhea. So there's no need to panic. Just, separation a little bit. But nah, I just wanted to see, and don't believe all those voice notes, because people make money in panics like this. And these voice notes, unless it's coming straight from the government, not someone my friend heard or they work for, it's like, first of all, let's be honest. If they put yeah, I know in California, once the governor did that in California, I'm calling my cousins and they're out and about, because if they are talking about letting out prisoners now out here, and so that means they don't have anywhere to hold anyone. So if you are caught out, what are they going to do? You think the police want to touch you? You think, they're going to lock you up in some camp? This is the beginning of a movie, but it ain't that movie that some people are trying to make money off of.
Trying to make it, yeah. That's true.
And if this is the apocalypse, we got to read the back of the book, and Revelations told us what happened. So for those who believe, you're supposed to almost kind of be able to rejoice, because the time that you've been praising and tithing and putting all that effort into, it's a coming. So what are you tripping off of? What's going to happen is going to happen.
Straight up, man. Yeah. It's all in God's hands, man. We just have to accept whatever is thrown upon us. And they say God doesn't give you situations you can't handle. So,
or a spirit of fear or confusion. So pop your collar and keep it moving. Now, let me ask you, the jet. That's always something when I look back at your jet picture, and I'm thinking, wait, Tapfuma was going to fly with everybody else. the jet, when you do work with the jet, do you have to give the money up front to the company, the person who owns the jet, or do they take it on the back end?
Everything is upfront. The jet, the car, the house. Everything is upfront. We collect the money upfront, so we are able to pay upfront. It gives the owner of the asset a certain comfort to allow people to do what they want to do, And there's been, a lot of producers and directors, especially the ones that are not as professional, that go to people, promise something, and then they don't fulfill. So some people are skeptical. In fact, I don't know how it's like. No, I do know how it's like. It's a bit more trusting in the West. In Africa, everything is upfront, man. We don't collect after the work.
Yeah, I feel you though. I like to pay everybody up front because I like to get paid up front, and that's just always been my motto. But in the West, here people will do that because they're quick to sue, and you can maybe get more money in the lawsuit, and so that's why they do it like that. Or an asset might be somebody might put their house up on the line. Let me ask you this about perception of when you're around all these luxury items. They see you at the online, you have a $300,000 car, but your real car may not be the $300,000 car. How do you deal with people saying, hey, you're driving that? Or I know billionaires who take Lyft and Uber, right? And it's like, yeah, this is all for show. How do you deal with that, given that family is always first to have their hand out and want something, especially when they see you living like, oh, wow, look at Tapfuma's house he gave them. How do you deal with that?
Black tax exists, man. You just have to take care of all the people that are close to you, man. And all the people that God has given you as a responsibility as a man. You just have to handle that. From my side, I mean, we're doing quite all right, I must say. There's nothing I wanna, I'm thankful to God every day that I drive nice cars, I live in a nice place, and I'm capable of doing whatever I need to do. Some of the assets that I have access to are of a higher bracket than even I am at myself, but I use them on a regular. It's just now like regular, so it's things that I'm now used to. And even for, because my company is now 6 years old, I have had people who I think, have always never really had my best interests, or that have seen me grow but have never been supportive to it, and have always looked for the cracks in my movement. But I see all those people these days, they support me the most, you know what I mean? Like I've won them over, so now I'm at a stage where I don't need to prove too much, like I've done it, I've done enough proving. So, everybody knows what time it is, and they know the brand value that I've created. It speaks for itself. I don't need to do much because I'm the only guy who will do what I do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll pull up on a Lambo in your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's nothing. I do it all the time, and I'm also, because it's a business. I don't play around with a lot of the assets. I used to, and just be a bit loud. But now I guess I'm a bit more mature about having keys to a Maybach in my hands, or having, a Ferrari or whatever for a week or a month. It's, I'm not going to drive it every day for everyone to see me, because it's no longer like priority. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that something like once you get it, whether it's the house, the car, the clothes, the watch, you're like, okay, that's not important to me anymore. So I always wanted the Aston Martin, and I said I'd get it at 40 because I thought I could, handle it then. The closer I get to 40, I'm like, I'm looking on YouTube and I say, okay, even if you buy it used, right, it's still an additional $18,000 a year cost after buying it. And I'm like, what else? Who else could we hire? Who else could we bless? What other things can be done with that money than stunting on people who, as Dave Ramsey always says, don't even know you. They'll never meet you. And you can rent all that stuff fairly cheap now. I mean, we have apps like Turo here, and I think they might be in South Africa, or apps like that, where you can go rent that for a day if you want to stunt at the, the club. But nobody sees you in the club really pull up. Like, you can't drive the car inside the club or to some swanky event. So it's like, what am I doing? Am I doing it for people, or am I doing it because I really like the car? Am I buying the watch because I really like this watch, which I hate all watches. My wife got me this to, monitor stuff like the heart rate, old people stuff. But I mean, what is it that vibe that, because you're dealing with some high end stuff. I don't know if you even want your own fancy car or airplane when you see what you have to put into it.
Well, I mean, I do. I mean, I've got a couple of cars of my own. I'm a Mercedes-Benz fan, thoroughly. Also, like, Jeep. So I have my own personal vehicles that I use, regularly. And I mean, even though I can afford to go get a Lambo, it doesn't make sense for me to invest. So what I have is a database. I've got a database of more than 400 cars that I can get from anywhere, and if I get 10 productions in a month, in a week, that say we need this car and that car and this and that and this and that, and I can get 3 or 4 of those from different places, you know what I mean? But I don't pay every month. I don't pay any car payments on any of these cars. I don't pay any insurance on any of these cars. I own them when I rent them out or when I supply them to other people, you know what I mean? But the principles of these vehicles, who I get the stuff from, they have very high bills on those things, and that's the reason why they even allow me to utilize them, so that I can give a little bit of change, to pay for insurances and to support some of the car payments and etc. So I'm adding value to them in that way, and they are giving me assets which I then, rent out and, put our markups on. So knowing this, it doesn't make sense for me to invest into an asset that I'm going to have a headache, paying for. And sometimes, clients want different things. Not everyone wants, not one Lambo. A Lambo is not going to work every single day of the month. I might rent out 5 Lambos in a month or 10 Lambos in a month, and then they want something else. So, when you go and you purchase the assets, I'm now actually giving you, my edge over my competition, because I do have competitors that pulled out, a couple of stacks, 10M, went and bought 2 or 3 luxury cars, and now their business revolves around marketing those cars. And you've got a wide client base that want so many different things than just those cars, so those people come to us for cars because our model has got an extensive database, and the variety is where we that's where we knock out all the other competition in the market, because our model, I'm not paying for cars that I'm not going to need every day. I'm not paying for things that I don't need every day. When I need something, I'll go and get it. It's just like even in camera equipment, there's one director of photography that I've worked with for many years, and he always rents out. He just goes. Whenever a client wants something, he goes and he rents it out, and then he includes that on his invoicing. And I asked him, I was like, "Well, why don't you copy yourself this Airy Mini?" And he's like, "Yo, things change every year. Every 2 years, there's something new." And all the time, the clients want the newer thing. They want the newer Lambo. They want the newer Bentley. They want the newer Maybach. They don't want the older one. You know what I mean? So if I go buy one newer one today, what am I going to do in the next year when there's something else new?
Yeah, that's not wise. I mean, Airbnb, Lyft, Uber, all of them, none of them own those things. So I mean, you're doing this is the new style. This is the new way of making.
That's exactly what we essentially are. We're a combination of an Airbnb and an Uber, you know, because we do, but just for luxury stuff, you know. In fact, I need to set up some meetings with both of those companies and like just have a conversation, because there's a gap in the market that they can't fill that we have filled, you know, in South Africa, that is.
Yeah, I mean, your app is soon to come. I just see it because where the clients, even the regular consumer, like let's say, to me, the biggest stunt now isn't the luxury car. After I got to race the Lambo, and after, you know, and people are calling you, hey, you know, after they see you on social media or something, or they catch you at the store every day, they're like, hey, how's the Lambo? How's the Tesla? It's like, yo, dude. I was, you know, renting that, right? That's short term. But once you do that, to me, the biggest stunt reminds me of a Martin episode where Tommy Davis Jr. came, and he used to do Martin's job. And he was like, you know, talking about all the great stuff he had, the big house. And Martin's like, well, what do you drive? And he's like, I don't drive anymore. And Martin's like, I got you. He's like, yeah, you got me. He was like, you know, he's like, I got the limo. Mercedes limo, and so he chauffeured. That's the stunt now, and that's what I love about being anywhere overseas, because I don't drive anywhere I'm at overseas, because I don't want to crash any car in London driving on the opposite side. And that's the stunt, is can you be chauffeured around, because I've been driving since I was 15, 16. So
I prefer being driven around, like, in fact, like, being chauffeured is the next level past driving, you know. I'm still excited about driving. You're not yet past that bracket there, you know. Because being driven that's past now. That's another level. Then that means you need drivers and butlers, and you know, and you're generally on another level.
Total another level, and you're able to get work done. And like I say, I'm seeing multi-millionaires brag about how much more work they're getting done. And you think about the Trumps, how do you build these empires? You put the time in and you build the relationships, but he's not worried about traffic, because whatever he can do inside his limo, you know, before we were born. Man, mm-hmm. I don't want to give folks a game overload, but I love to ask the question, what is your community give back that you're doing or that you want to do in the future?
Well, I mean, I support a lot of the, you know, upcoming artists here in South Africa and in Zimbabwe. And I'm always, you know, shooting free things when I can for them, providing studio time. We've got a couple of studios, free studio time, free PR. You know, we push talent when we see talent. That's definitely the biggest community give back. And where we can, we also support charities when there's situations, you know, that are, you know, local disasters or national disasters, or international disasters. We're always there to offer a helping hand. But I'd say the biggest give back is, you know, we encourage the youth to believe in themselves, to go for their dreams, and where we can, we assist in whatever ways possible.
Man, well, that's good game. You guys, I'm going to give, I don't say this often, but if you contact this man, come out and I want you to say, how can I hire you? How can I work with you? But I want to get in your network. I vouch for Tapfuma all the way since I met him. He's trustworthy. He made things happen for me that, I mean, I wanted to go places that even he himself at the time were like, you want to go to Soweto? Why? You know, you want to go here. He put a lot of things in place for me many moons ago, and I always appreciate that and love the success. And it shows who you are in the beginning is who you will become. So, brother, I thank you for coming on. This episode
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Blessings, and we'll wrap.